everyone falls into that, like, well, whose labor is worth more? And there's this argument that, well, if you're going out and attracting the business and doing the negotiations and like putting the stamp on it, that like your labor is worth more than the person that's in the quote unquote support role. I call bullshit on that.
Welcome back to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. As always, I've got Matt Bonelli with me today, and we have an amazing guest. We have John Griswold, who's joining us today. He's a good friend of mine, and I have been excited to have you on the podcast ever since we started talking about this, because you not only have built an incredible business for yourself, John, but John also has gone through the roller coasters of stress that this business can bring and figuring out his systems of what he needs to do to create a business that he can count on, that his family can count on, that'll get him to where he wants to go. So John, good morning. I'm excited to go on this journey with you.
I'm really excited too. And frankly, nerding out a little bit, you two are both like little minor celebrities to me. And so I've been like talking to everybody I know that I'm going to go on this podcast. And I'm like, if you're not listening to it, you should listen to it, because it's become a huge part of my life since the pandemic. And so I think I'm one of those sickos that's listened to every single episode you've ever done, going back to your first podcast through this one. So anyway,
it's a lot of episodes. It's like 700 something. That's a lot of time with myself and Garrett, John.
It's a lot of time. I always feel a little bit awkward when I tell people that, but I'm excited to at least tell you guys that, because it's a testament to what you've put out there, and you've just become like part of my daily routine, throughout the week.
Well, I love it, man. And again, it was funny. We started talking here a while back, and there was a moment where you were like, I have a goal someday to be on the podcast. And the more we started talking and the more you started sharing your stuff with me, I just started writing notes, and I'm like, oh, we're having John on the pod. Like, you can have a dream of there's some people that come to us going, wouldn't it be cool someday? And I'm like, yeah, but there's got to be something there. And the more you started talking, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of really good stuff. So I'm excited to jump into this today. So John, real quick, so you're with Compass, you're in San Diego, correct?
Correct.
And you handle, give us a little bit of an idea of San Diego, because you cover a pretty big stomping ground down there.
Yes. So I think partly due to discovering Ninja and then niching heavily into business-to-business relationships, when I did my numbers to start the year, I was at 97.5% referral. And so the double-edged sword of that is that you kind of go wherever the clients come from. So I have referral relationships all over the county, ergo, I'm not niched anymore into a specific sub-market the way that my dad was, I'm a second-generation realtor. So he could basically walk to 90% of his listings, which was very cool. And I ended up niching in a different way. So I'm in the car a lot, hence listening to the podcast. But I pretty much go all over the county, and then sort of draw the line at the county line, and then have built up some phenomenal relationships all over the state and into other states, into the markets that I do not touch. So same with commercial, same with property management. I just kind of stay in this residential lane. And I love it.
I love it. And real quick, so before we get into all the real estate and the nuts and bolts about this, what is kind of the behind the scenes look like for you? Because we are going to get into some of the structure that you had to get going so that you could give your family the life that they wanted to have. And I want the listeners to kind of understand, what does that look like behind the scenes? I know you've got kids. I know they're homeschooled. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have 3 young children that are now 5, 8, and 9. My oldest is about to be 10 in a couple of weeks. And my wife had this dream even before the pandemic of, wouldn't it be cool to have the kids at home instead of doing the traditional, you bring in a nanny, you put them in a nice daycare, and then you kind of go that tract, which is, I would say, the norm in San Diego. It's a very expensive market. Most people need dual income to really thrive in this town. But we had this dream that we were playing with, and then my oldest was going into kindergarten, and then the pandemic hit, and we basically I lost any argument to not do that. I mean, I'm a product of the public school system. We have a phenomenal public schools in San Diego. So I was like, why are we doing this? But then we had to, and a light bulb went off for me of like, holy heck, we have the best mornings. We have enviable mornings. My kids roll out of bed. There's no stress. I'm my mom was a public school teacher growing up. So like mornings were intense. She's trying to get to work. I'm trying to get to school. Like who's making lunches? My dad's in real estate, sometimes with early morning appointments. It was nuts. And so our life in the mornings is really cool. And, I have the ability with my schedule to see my kids a tremendous amount because they're just home more. And so the life aspect of homeschooling for us has been just amazing. Not to mention my kids were essentially spared from the pandemic. I mean, they were completely unaffected, where everybody else's life was blowing up. Spouse who's used to being at work is now at home for 18 months or 6 months or whatever it was for their industry. For us, we just kept rolling. And so we've continued to do that, and it's been great. We're now shifting the kids into a charter school twice a week because they're sort of ready for that. My wife is ready to have a little bit of support as they're heading into like truly into the elementary school and then middle school before we know it. But I'm been very grateful to give our kids that gift because it is a huge sacrifice.
I love that, John. And I want to highlight that. And because I know we're going to get into also the story that evolved kind of coming out of COVID and everything. But a lot of people get into real estate because they have this dream of a lifestyle and then they wait until they produce a certain amount in order to have that lifestyle. Whereas you and your wife had a discussion and made a decision. Why don't we make that lifestyle happen and then figure out what we need to support that lifestyle? So just tell me a little bit about the mindset behind that for you, and then how that came into how you approached your business and in real estate, because, was your wife working before that? And then now all of a sudden it's okay, John, you got to go sell enough homes to support this lifestyle that we're going to do, all that stuff. Like, tell us a little bit about how that worked. Cause I know there's people listening who are like, that sounds amazing. I'd love to do that.
Yeah. So my wife actually also has a real estate license, and her father, who's also actually we share a coach. He owns a brokerage company up in Los Angeles that specifically does only hotels. So pretty cool niche. It's actually where I started my career working for him, which is a whole nother tangent we could maybe go down. But so she came from that world, and we actually worked together briefly before kids, and then as we were having kids and having kids pretty close in age, that just naturally kind of fell away. I think for us, there was this moment from her where she's a very hard worker, and anybody that's a stay-at-home mom or homeschool mom would attest that it's probably definitely the harder job. And so, I mean, different stresses, but it's very challenging, especially with multiple kids. So I do tell people, the grass is not greener, it's just different grass. And so you have to decide if this is the environment that you want, and the challenges that do come are those the challenges that you want to face and create systems around. But for us, it was worth the adjustment. And yes, it is a financial adjustment. I don't have the biggest house in the neighborhood. I'm not driving around in a Range Rover, like some of my colleagues that do the kind of production I do. We've made different choices with that because we need to subsist in Encinitas, where I live, on one income, and most of the people up and down my street are dual income doctor and attorneys. So there's a little bit of that. You have to decide to be a little weird and not step into the rat race of keeping up with your neighbors. And that's not easy, especially in real estate. We're all hyper competitive people in general, and we're very concerned with image, but a lot of that is a fallacy, honestly.
That herd mentality is really hard to step outside of. We're so comfortable running with the herd, and we want to fit in with the herd. It's part of DNA. And but one of the things I want to commend you on is my dad always taught me is quality time is different than quantity time. And quantity time is where powerful relationships are made. It's where the real meat of deep conversations come out of. That moment of just driving your kids to school sometime and trying to get all the nooks and crannies of what's happening in their world, to that moment of really being able to sit on the couch with them and just talk and not have like a time constraint on it, is where like the really big conversations get to happen. So really, again, commend you for being able to put that together, create that life, because going into real estate, this has created a world for you that you are the sole provider. And we're going to share some numbers here. John, I hope you're cool if I share these numbers, because I think that some of these numbers, as we share them, there's a lot of people that are going to go like, whoa, like that's a lot of volume. And they, like, even with your drop in volume where it freaked you out for a little bit, it's still, for a lot of people, going to seem like a lot of money. But when you're living in San Diego, in Encinitas, and you're a one income household, like that doesn't necessarily cover the world that you live in down there. Right. So I want everybody to understand that as we go into sharing some of these numbers. So you went from, in 2021, you were having a really, I would say, a strong year. You did 45 million in production. And there's an interesting thing that happens, because when you go from a 45 million in production down to, let's say, a 15 million in production, there's a lot of people that still go, 15 millions, that's still a good year, like 15 million in volume. But when you go from 45 million to 15 million, you might have well have had your legs kicked out from underneath you, especially when you're a sole income provider like that. So tell me a little bit about that moment in time and what that was kind of like, because it had to have been stressful, man.
Yeah, definitely stressful. And there's one also variable in this, is that I'm the principal of a family team. So, and especially in 2021, my dad is starting to exit the business. But at that time he was fully in, and we created essentially a team structure where me and my father and my sister were all, bringing in clients who were basically putting everybody in a pot on the back end and splitting everything three ways. So that 45 million was funding three different families. So that's an important distinction as well.
Was the 15 million funding also three different families?
At that point, thankfully, my dad was starting to exit, because there's no way that 15 million funds three families in San Diego. It just doesn't, in production wise. But no, I mean, things were close to the bone for 3 years, from 2022 to 2024. It was like, how we just got to get the mortgage paid, and try and really working on mindset. I mean, a lot of listeners will attest to this. I mean, there's been this sort of like, oh, are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? Anybody in real estate land, we've been in a recession for 3.5 years. Like, we've all felt it. That's just the reality when you have a transaction volume go down by half or more. So we've been in that. But that's, I would say this, like, 2021 was a phenomenal year for most people. And I, like many, I think, went, okay, I've arrived. This is the new Griswold Group. We're a 45 million to maybe $75 million business. This is going to be me for the next 30 years. Great. I figured it out. I cracked the code. And I remember talking to my coach at that time about it. And and I think maybe it was your podcast, but there was this little warning of like, hey, guess what? If every agent's business doubled, you're not special. You are riding a wave. And be very careful about the fundamentals of your business, because you didn't fix anything. You just rode the wave with everybody else. Sure enough,
that was one of our podcasts.
I think that was the first holes in the boat on the front side of the
Yeah.
boat podcast that we did.
and
Figure
that's
out when we did that one. Now we know.
yeah, and that stuck with me, like this little annoying little be careful. And sure enough, 20, 22, 23, 24, I rode the wave the other direction, where, most agents' businesses were way off. Mine was too. And this is the first year where, again, for San Diego, there's a lot of struggles in our industry right now. A lot of agents are hurting. And I am one of the few in my office, and even when I go to larger groups, that is having a great year. And so now it's like, okay, since I'm zigging where everybody else is zagging, like what did I tweak? What did I fix? How do I double down on that so that this time I really have arrived? I have hopefully, fingers crossed, built a more bulletproof business that puts me off of that feast or famine roller coaster that we all struggle with.
So going through that time, because I do want to talk about it, you're right on point with what we talked about, is like, if everybody's business is up, don't think that you're something that's special and outside the box. Like, you're always got to be looking at, am I outperforming the market that's around me? That's when you can like give yourself a pat on the back and be like, okay, we got something here. We got to figure it out. Your mindset, though, like when things go and turn like that, you'd mentioned mindset, you'd mentioned your team, but what did you do during that time to keep your mindset in a really good spot? Because that's usually where people completely derail. Like, that's where they go and find a different job in a different industry.
Right. Well, and I had a big leg up just because I was raised, very spiritual, very religious. And so I think when you're in that world at a young age, it's a muscle that you build of confidence of like, I can go to this place of like, where does my supply come from? What am I here to do? Is it to make millions of dollars and be platinum agent, or is there some stewardship that I'm here to do? How do I build a life for my children? Like those kind of things. How do I be a good husband? How do I be a good neighbor? The power of gratitude. And so I really dived into that as business was off, of like really being consistent with waking up early, having a consistent gratitude practice, the 5-minute gratitude journal, which again, I probably stole from you guys, got me started with a really good gratitude practice. I've sent that book to probably 100 people, clients and colleagues and stuff, as a way of like, hey, here's how you get started. That book is really good. I don't need it anymore. You can eventually get to the point where you can just open up a journal and just go, and it just flows. But honestly, gratitude practice, affirmations, for me, I do more of like a spiritual study that becomes my version of affirmations. But I work on it every day. And I will tell you that like affirmations, if you're not doing it every day, you feel that energy fall off. And so that's a big one right now. As I'm busy, things are going well, it's easy to be like, well, that was for like when I needed it. And like now things are great. Like I'd rather just wake up or I'd rather sleep in, frankly, and then just wake up at 7:30 and then not have the time to do that kind of stuff because whatever. So now it's like really staying consistent with that, because that is I think a foundational aspect of not just building a business, but building a marriage, building a relationship with your family. That gratitude practice has really, improved my marriage and my relationships, and honestly improved a lot of relationships with clients, even, that I was having this continue to like hit this wall of like, why am I not connecting with this client, and then harboring this resentment, and then feeling like they don't like me, and like going into a gratitude practice has completely shifted many relationships in my life. So,
and was that relatively absent then before, 22, did you have that practice in 19, 20 and 21 when things were going
Not
well?
really. Not really. No. I mean, that was part of discovering ninja selling, and then realizing, and like that book was one of those where like I'd read all the Keller books. I grew up in a real estate family, so I was around all this stuff. Brian Buffini, Mike Ferry, all that kind of stuff.
Brian's right there in San Diego too, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a San Diego guy. I've met him before. Cool guy. But that book was the first book that I read where I was like, I would do 100% of this. Like these are my people. This is the movement I've been trying to find. And so I just dove in 100% into that world. So
I love it.
So
you made a comment.
sorry,
Real quick about the gratitudes and affirmations. You made a comment in there about how like you get into a habit where you can tell like you haven't done it. You can see that your energy drops when you haven't been doing it. And I think until you get into a routine of doing it, just like working out, just like getting into that health kick and routine, or eating in a certain way, it starts to become like you can tell when you haven't had enough water in the day, and you're like, I need to get a cup of water. Like I can feel that I'm a little bit off, like my mind's not kind of clear. There's things in our life that we start to understand about ourselves, and until you bring in a state of gratitude and affirmations, and you can feel that energy rise up on a regular basis, you don't realize how much control you have over it. So again, good job, man, at putting that into your life and bringing it in the level you did.
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, obviously not everybody is comfortable with exploring this aspect, but for those who have some part of them that is open to a higher power, go down that road in whatever way that you want, because I think sometimes where affirmations and gratitude don't work is there's no depth to it, and you got to dig down a little bit. So if you're open to that, like do that work, do that searching, because that builds this underlying foundation that makes everything else happen.
I think it's where a lot of people get stuck in the affirmation, and we see it all the time, Matt, where somebody comes to me and says, well, I wrote the affirmation of, I enjoy making $1 million a year, and I'm just going to focus on that and do that. And I do affirmations. I do that affirmation every single day. I've been doing it for months and months and months. And you can tell there's this empty side of it, that it's just like, there's got to be something bigger underlying this to make this really come to life. And they get frustrated then with this affirmation that I've been saying for 6 months that I'm not even anywhere near. And it's like, because it's not really all that powerful to you. I love how you said that.
Yeah. I think, even for me, when I started doing affirmations and everything, there was this stress of like, oh, I'm putting so much pressure on myself. And we have to realize that we're not doing this alone. There is always someone with us going through that, and we don't have to take it all on ourselves, because we do have a higher power we can give it up to. And so I appreciate you sharing that, John. I think it is important for people to explore that. And, so you're going through this period of time, you have 1 year, that's not so great. You have another year, that's not so great. So what did you learn about how you were operating your business as well during that time that allowed you to start to make the shifts that you needed to make in order to now having a great year, while other people are still, trying to figure out, how do I get back to that wave that we were on?
Yeah, I think it definitely helped me explore and go get a coach. So I did an installation, and then it was still sort of like trying to figure it out, and then ended up discovering Marcus Jaffe, who's actually an office manager out of the Pacific Sotheby's in the DC area, and just, I think, coaches a handful of clients, because he's already got his arms full with I think over 100 agents that he's just managing as his like day job.
When I hired Marcus as a coach back when we were doing what we were doing before, Marcus was one of those ones I'm like, dude, can I get more time of yours? Like, can we get more opportunity for you to coach more people? And then all of a sudden he was gifted not one, but two other offices on top of the offices he was managing. And I'm like, well, we lost Marcus. Marcus has got his hands full.
I know. I thought I was going to get the chop at some point because I was like, all right, but he's stuck with me and I've stuck with him. And but yeah. So I think working with somebody outside of, I mean, he comes from a different market. He comes from, I mean, we're different ages. Like he has a little bit more life experience and a little bit more of like a top down view. And he's really helped me figure out the bullshit that I've been telling myself, and really focusing me and steering me in the ways that are going to best serve me. And I think through our conversations, twice a month, we really were able to figure out that a lot of what was broken in our business had to do with my business partner, Katie, who's also my sister, and I, where there was no efficiency in what we were doing. It was like, you're an agent, I'm an agent. We're going to do everything together. We're going to show up as this package deal. We're siblings. We're adorable. Like there's some value to that. We play off well together. We're the best of friends. Like that really comes across when we're together. And so we were like, that's our secret sauce, is that like dynamic. And so we're just like running all over the county together, meaning no one's at their desk. No one's like helping with the back end. We're like, burning a candle on both ends. And the reality is that she's a true introvert, which I know is most people. I'm like the true on the other end of the spectrum, like incredibly extroverted. So like all that sort of running around, doing stuff like this is fuel for me. Not that way for my sister at all. And so there was this kind of like break in our energy. And a lot of it was because my sister was not in the right role and did not have permission or agency to explore something different. And frankly, if we hadn't figured this out, I don't know if I would still be a business partner with her. We'd be fine otherwise, but it was not feeding her soul anymore, frankly. And so we shifted where now she is completely operations and marketing. So, in the same, and she doesn't do listing appointments. She doesn't do buyer consultations. Most of our new clients have never met her and probably never will. Our existing clients, past clients, know her really well because of that dynamic. But she thrives behind the scenes. And I think the cool thing that happened with that is that, we talk about PI and E time. My entire job is P and I time. I don't touch E time. There's not a single aspect of everything else that I do now. And I think that's what shifted, frankly, and allowed me to explode and have this consistent prospecting energy that's attracted all this business to me in a way that other agents are not attracting the same level of business for their own goals. Obviously, there's levels. Other agents in my town that do $150 million a year, yeah, and so that's where I've become really excited about that aspect. I'm not doing all the everything stuff.
So it's interesting with teams, and we watch this happen a lot, where teams go and they're like holding hands, skipping through the fields together. And it's just like, okay, wait, that's not an efficient running team. And what I love is that you guys figured out what your roles were. When my wife and I got into selling real estate, that was one of our things. Is we sat down and we said, is our goal to make a 2-agent income, or is our goal to make one absolutely incredible agent? Like, you're going to take care of all the stuff that I don't like to do, and I'm going to take care of all the stuff that you don't like to do, and we're going to go out and conquer this. And I think that that's where you kind of came into realizing this with your sister, is that we had the same, basically the separation of roles, and it was so nice to let go of, where I could come back with a contract and just hand it over, and it was all being taken care of. Now, she did be like, did you even try to get signatures on this? Because usually I was talking so much and enjoying the moment with the people that I would bring something back that wasn't even ready to be processed. But it's brilliant when you can figure that out with somebody in a team role. That's
Katie
awesome.
gives me so much shit. I'll come out of a listing appointment. I'm like, it went great. And she's like, great. Did you get their email? And I'll be like, No,
Dude,
she's like, fail, like, so she has really helped me with those systems, and she sees because I'm doing this all day, she sees where she can help me with some of those little check marks, and she's built out all these amazing checklists and sort of things that I now follow in terms of how I prepare for listing appointments and how she gets me ready, because she doesn't have to leave the house. She's like, John, the fact that I don't have to go get my hair done and put on makeup and make sure I've got the right outfit. And she's like, John, you roll out of bed and you're ready to go in 30 minutes. It takes me 2.5 hours. It's just the difference between men, for a lot of people, men and women. And she's like, the fact that I can just stay home and just support you, like, I have way more time because I'm not worried about that.
So I have a question, because you gave her the title, if I saw what you shared with me, Director of Operations. Is that her official title? Because we had Simon on here recently, and I was talking about the power of the title that you give people that gives them the authority to act in certain ways and to show up in certain ways. So that's her official title as Director of Operations.
That's the official title. And I mean, we split every deal 50-50. So I joke that she's the most expensive operations manager in the world. And I would not have it any other way. Especially with a family business, having that equity is crucial. And frankly, I everyone falls into that, like, well, whose labor is worth more? And there's this argument that, well, if you're going out and attracting the business and doing the negotiations and like putting the stamp on it that like your labor is worth more than the person that's in the quote unquote support role, I call bullshit on that. I've seen how what she does for me. And again, you have to let go. I don't micromanage her. In fact, like, I don't even pay attention, to the point where we had a team training, because I've got 3 team members I mentor, and we were going through some contract stuff and like making sure our templates are correct. And I was like, when did this form change? Wait, like, I thought the button was over here. Like, I've completely, like, that's my problem now, is that I have lost some of those skills. You know what I mean? So it's like, suddenly when Katie's like, we're doing a team training, like, I need to show up and be present, because I need to remember how to do this stuff, because I'm not doing it all the time. And so it's a good problem to have, but you do have to let go. And I think partly having a family member, I trust her implicitly. And so I'm able to let go in a way that I maybe wouldn't feel as comfortable if it was just an employee. So that's one aspect. Obviously, I give more of my money away, but the benefits, I think, are exponential to have that trust and ability to know that she's a partner. She's a co-owner of this business. So she cares at a level that, I don't care what the salary is, she cares at a level that is different.
You also mentioned that she has authority to manage you in certain aspects as well, right? And I think this is one thing where a lot of real estate agents forget when they're building out a team and bringing people on to support them, is they think, well, I'm just at the top. I don't need anybody to manage me. I need to manage people who support me. And it's most of the time, it's like most agents would be better off hiring somebody to manage them, manage themselves, than they would be hiring somebody for them to manage. And you had this built in your family, which is amazing, because you both had all the experience. You both have done all the things. You grew up in real estate. And I think that's just something I want to just double tap on, is like, she's not just there to push paper. She's there to manage the business so that you can go sell and bring in the revenue. And a lot of people forget how, from a business standpoint, like, money flows in a certain way, and you need people who are selling so that there's revenue, but then you need people who are able to manage and transform that revenue into net profit. And that's where the money is made. And you have that together when you have this ability to have these roles clearly defined and the autonomy to actually operate in those roles. So kudos to both of you for being able to do that and maintain your friendship as brother and sister too.
Yeah. It's been great. I mean, I joke, I haven't pulled comps in a year and a half. And I may never pull comps again in my career. And I am so grateful for that.
So
you know?
you mentioned like the most expensive like person you could have in this role. And I think that it's interesting the way that you've come into this caused you or gave you the ability of saying, I trust this person at this incredibly high level. I'm cool being 50-50. We're going to be business owners. Let's just split it 50-50 and let's go after this and let's build something awesome. Where so many people, when hiring for that role, start getting into what is an appropriate salary, what are the bonus structures, what should I be doing to keep them happy and keep them here? And what if you found somebody and then said, I mean, Jordan did this, where he's like, you know what? You have been such an important person in my world. They started off as an employee and then said, you know what? You're in this with me. Let's do this. And every single time I've seen somebody do it, it like brings this energy of ownership into both people. And it's like, let's go together. Dude, it's a really good structure to have and good for you for letting go. I mean, that's the hardest thing is letting go.
I was so inspired by his business model. And it's definitely, I'm kind of trying to create something similar. And I mean, I think the nice thing is that I'm demonstrating it in my own business. I'm not saying, hey, come onto my team, give me half of every deal and I'll take away operations. Meanwhile, I don't do that, you know. It's like I'm demonstrating the value of bringing in somebody to take away and then split it. But what I've had for my team is like, hey, if you have one escrow, keep it. But if you have 2 or 3 or whatever your threshold is, and you can figure this out with trial and error, consider giving those additional deals or listings to the team to help take away the operation so that you can keep your prospecting engine running. And I'm starting to see some buy-in from my team members. I had someone approach me yesterday who's, we're going to co-list a big deal. Would have taken her a ton of time away. It's like a $4 million listing. And she's like, that would have taken away her prospecting completely, this kind of a client. And so giving that to my sister and me to take away the operations side, and then I'm, kind of mentoring her on her side, is allowing her to continue to go chase more business. But I like it because the onus is on the team member to turn this switch on and off. So I've got another team member, young guy. He's got one deal, and he may want to figure this out. You know what? I'm going to see how much I can do by myself. But he knows that if he gets overwhelmed and then he comes out of his 4 deals and goes, I have no business. Okay, next time, when I get to 2 deals or 3 deals, I'm going to hand those additional deals to the team and give 50% split, but free myself up to not run out of business, which is that's the problem in our industry that everybody faces. Is you can't, at a certain point, you lose the bandwidth unless you're a true workaholic and can just put in the 80 hours when you've got multiple escrows. Not everybody's built that way. I'm certainly not. I have a limit to how much I can do before I just fall apart.
Some of the hardest workers I've ever seen that'll just push and push and push and push. There's always a threshold there where you're just maintaining the business that you've created, and you have to let something go. And what you'll always let go is the stuff that are not, you haven't made a commitment to somebody. We haven't made a commitment that we're going to write notes this week. We haven't made a commitment that we're going to make phone calls to our database. We haven't made a commitment that we're going to do a market impact report or a real estate review. We haven't made any of these commitments to any of these people, but we have made commitments to these people that we're helping with buy and we're helping with the sell side. And that's why they'll always get our attention unless we have a system that'll take that busy work off the plate. Yes, your prospecting shuts down. I have a feeling your team, this group that you're mentoring, the minute they get a real taste of going, oh, I create this business and then it just gets processed and goes through, they're not going to be like, I think I can handle this one. I got this one, and then we'll hand the second one off. I think they're going to be handing all of them off.
I think it creates a stickiness to a team. And that's the big complaint with a lot of team leads. It's like, oh, people come and go, and they very quickly get complacent or feel like you're not providing value or feel like they can do a better job on their own. And there's always going to be some of that. But I think a team structure like this, where again, you're not dictating to them, you must give every deal to and split 50-50, and you're not allowed to touch operations. You're only in sales. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is a lever that you, the business owner, get to pull when you want to pull it. And I will continue to mentor those people through that. But they're in control of their own business. I feel like creates a stickiness and an ongoing value that I think could be powerful. And I mean, I haven't lost a team member yet in the 4 years I've been building it. And so that's, I'm excited about some of the things that are coming down the pike.
It's definitely a unique model. I think, for any team leader out there that's chasing, how do you offer the better split, offer more leads? Like, not only are you then competing with teams, you're competing with brokerages at that point. And there's always going to be a better split for somebody than being on a team. And if that's the only value you bring, you're going to have people recycle through. And so I love what you built there, particularly the option. That's very unique. A lot of people have a static structure, but you've created this kind of, opportunity where people can learn and grow, and then just plug in if they want to or when they're ready to, which I think is actually great, because sometimes as a new agent or as a young agent, or even as somebody's been in the business for a while but is trying to go to another level, it's good for them to be in it. It's good for them to be a part of the operations. And then it increases their amount of respect that they have for the people who then support them when they access that opportunity. Now, you mentioned haven't pulled comps and probably never will again, which leads into one of the biggest tools that you use to attract repeat and referral business and give referrals, which is the real estate review, or what we call market impact reports now. So tell us a little bit about that structure, how that works, what you're doing, what the cadence is, the value you're providing, and what it's done for your business.
Sure. So I figured out that one of the challenging things with real estate reviews, if you're running a ninja business, is we're all told that you don't sell, you don't ask for the business, you don't bring up real estate. It's all of these subtle skills, right? And so then when you do the real estate review, it can feel really salesy, and then you get in your head about it, and you're like, don't be a salesperson. And then of course you show up and you're super awkward, because they're like, why are you here? And you're like, no reason. Just, here, it creates some weird
real estate information and
Right. And I sat in that. I had a couple of awkward ones, and I, with really good past clients and friends who I was like, who helped me. They were like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And I'm trying to figure this out. But what I shifted to was utilizing a real estate review to unlock as many referrals for other people as possible. I still talk about their home's value. I still give them that snapshot. I talk about what's going on in the neighborhood, those kind of things. But most of the real estate review, after the Ford conversation stuff and seeing their house and talking about that, is like, you mentioned that the carpet really smells because of the dog. I have a carpet guy for you. Is it time to put solar on your house? I pulled your tax records. You still don't have a home in your trust. You have 8 children. We might want to put that home in a trust. Like, who manages your money? Your fence is falling over. I got a fence guy. I'm going through and I'm trying to check off as many boxes as possible. And I can tell you, the clients love it. They're not like, oh my God, stop asking me what buckets I need to fill. They're like, yes, please. We don't have any of this stuff. And so I will routinely, I just did one where I referred a financial advisor, an estate planning attorney, an OBGYN, I think that was it, those 3. But and again, I'm leaving I can give you these names, but I would love to give you a warm introduction. Would you allow me to connect you guys over a group text, over a group email? Because by the way, it's not a referral unless it's a true referral, unless it's a warm introduction. I have clients all the time that are like, I gave your business card to my neighbor. I'm like, that's great, but that neighbor will never call me. Like you need to, and so, but that
back to how you set these up though. So like we talked about everybody's so afraid of acting salesy and showing up like a salesperson. And I've seen a lot of people screw up a really good lunch where they go to lunch or something. They go, oh, I created something for you. And all of a sudden they're throwing a review on the table and having this moment in this meeting. How do you pick the people you do these with? And then how do you set that up so that it has this really natural flow and it can lead into what you're trying to do, which is create value for them and put the right people in their world?
Yes. So Tuesdays are my like real estate review and coffee setup day, basically. So Mondays are my customer service calls. Tuesday is all about, reaching out to people to set up real estate reviews and coffees. And I try to do, I reach out to 4 people for real estate review and then 4 people for lunch and coffee, and then booking out several weeks that way. And that seems to be enough people, if I do that consistently, that I'm always going to have, at least 1, if not 2 real estate reviews a week, just because of that, like inertia. And sometimes you'll have people that are like, I'd love to do it, but I can't do it for 6 weeks. I'm like, great. I now have a real estate review 6 weeks out, but you start to fill up your calendar. So that's the way that I do it. Call, and then I'll text, and then I'll email. And then if I don't get a response, Katie just puts it in the mail.
And what's that conversation like? Like, how do you propose that to them when you call and you say, hey, it's time for your annual real estate review? Like, what do you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I always plant the seed, with anybody that's closing, that like, hey, I'm gonna be talking to you more than once a year, but in a year, we're gonna do what's called the real estate review, and so they kind of get that seed planted. But then I'm reaching out, and obviously I've got past clients that were pre this. And so reaching out and saying, hey, it's been a while. I'd love to see you and the family. If you've got some availability next couple of weeks, I'd love to pop by, say hi. And I usually don't, and I kind of leave it at that. And if they get the input, I'll be like, great. I'll also like bring by a little bit of information kind of about what's going on in the neighborhood. But the goal of this is to just see you guys and then see how I might be helpful with some of the other things in your life. I've got a tremendous network of business professionals and things. And like, I'd love to help you, really like augment your home ownership. And I've found that's really the way that I've been able to build this out and have it be helpful.
Incredible referral relationships are built off of care and concern for the people's needs. And everything I'm hearing from you right now is you're going into a real estate review so that it's not like, is there a sale in here? Like I hear people all the time that go, I did a real estate review, but I'm not sure it's working because I didn't get any business out of it. I'm not sure if it's the right thing for me. Where you've completely flipped the script on this, and it's all about how much value can I bring to these people. And in turn, I have found that is the core of a strong referral relationship. And you're also, when you set the stage of I'm helping you by giving you people that are going to make your life better, it mutually works back the other direction every single time. So that's a really powerful relationship you built.
And I come from a standpoint of everybody I talk to with they own real estate. My philosophy is don't sell your real estate. I believe that's actually true. I mean, my family, like we're trying to add real estate. We're not trying to sell a single piece of property that we own in San Diego. So like, I'm actively messaging that to my sphere, and people are like, why are you saying that? Are you nuts? And I'm like, no, because like I'm building trust with these people, because the reality is if people want to sell a house, they're just going to sell their house. No one's getting talked into anything when you're sitting on a piece of property in coastal San Diego. Like they know what they have, it's like the toilet paper meme in the pandemic. I know what I have, right? But if I can sit down with them and be like, all right, how do we how do we turn your starter condo into a Airbnb? How do we turn it into a long-term rental? Have you thought about bringing in a sibling and buying you out and owning this 50-50 so that you can get some equity out and buy the next property and not lose this family asset? Those are the type of conversations that I'm having, of like getting super creative, because I mean, frankly, a lot of the time it doesn't work out and they do end up having to sell. But by then they trust me, because I have never been like, you guys, there's no way you're going to keep this thing. Like, I know you want to go from the $2 million house to the $4 million house, and there's no other way around it. So like, let's cut the bullshit, sign on the dotted, that is not, and so I've been able to build a lot of trust. And then when I call, they know that I'm not trying to get something from them, but they know what I do for a living. So
yeah. There's an episode that I haven't proposed to Matt yet, but I want to do here in the future, but I actually want to have a couple people on, because I have noticed that some of the most successful realtors I know talk a lot of people, or talk a ton of people out of actually selling. Because it's not the right thing for them. And that level of trust that is built around that is absolutely incredible. And it keeps popping up for me. I'll find someone who's just crushing in real estate. And they're like, oh yeah, I just had to tell this person and this person to not sell their home right now. And that, it just built an incredible relationship. So doesn't surprise me that that's your approach. By the way, I like your ideas too, of bringing somebody else in to buy it 50-50, free up some equity.
That is smart.
That's not a bad plan.
That is a good plan, particularly for those of you out there who have like large-ish families. Like, why not grow that family asset? Put it in a trust. You start there. I mean, I love the whole philosophy of making your connections about bringing other people into these people's lives, because I do believe that as realtors, we're so involved, like, okay, yes, our core service is helping people buy and sell homes. That's the core service, because that's what you get paid on, quote unquote. But if you're able to enhance the lives of people, not only that, when you're going in and you're doing these reviews and you're looking at their house saying, oh, fence might need a little things here, this might little bit things here, you're also saving them future capital as well by making sure the house is maintained well, and you're enriching the equity in that home by, hey, let's just fix the fence now, because it is those things. Garrett and I have talked about scotomas all the time. I have little projects here and there that I need to fix in the house and everything. And it's always good when we have like people over or something, because it's like a kick in the pants of like, let's get this thing done. But having your advisor over to also highlight some of that stuff for you is huge value. Because if they did need to sell in a pinch for some reason, the stress of then fixing the fence, fixing this over here, is all of a sudden it becomes way bigger than, hey, let's just get this done right now. And so I really appreciate that approach to that. And so building on all of that, now you've come into 2025, you're having a great year off of, these series of challenging years that you've had. What's now the routine like for you in terms of communicating with your people? So we obviously have the real estate reviews. How does your prospecting engine, as you called it before, work to keep you in front of your people so that this flywheel just keeps going round and round?
Yeah. So, I mean, I need a lot of systems, attention deficit. I mean, I've never been like diagnosed, but I struggle with that. And so I've had to find systems that work for me. And so I find I do my weekly meeting agenda, and I write about 3 notes on Sundays, actually, to like get the jump start on the week. And so I try to segment my prospecting into a 4-day window instead of a 5, knowing that things happen. And so, for notes, I do 4, 3, and 3. And to get through, or 3, 3, and 2, or whatever. It basically gets to 10, you know what I mean? But I segment it that way. Because I'm so extroverted, I will hit 50 live interviews in my sleep. I just am constantly out talking to people and doing things. So I have dove into that more. So I do an additional 50 outgoing calls a week on top of that. And so that's, about 13 calls a day, out to over a 4-day period to get to that 50. And so that's kind of the way that and then again, within that 50 calls, that includes the customer service calls and the setting up the lunches and the coffees and the real estate reviews and all those kind of things. But I have like time blocks and sort of the way that I've set up my week so that I always have those periods to really hit those goals. And it takes some systems. It takes having a calendar. But honestly, because I'm not doing any of the e-time, I'm not suddenly running out to put a lockbox on a property or whatever, or like researching some weird property tax issue that takes hours, but it's like, you said you told your client you do it. Katie takes all of that off of my plate and allows me to just go chase new business and maintain the existing relationships, which is crucial. I have the time to, maintain all of the people that are already working with us and keep those relationships really strong.
So when you're planning out your calls, obviously we kind of know a little bit of the system on how you're doing the coffees and the reviews. Obviously customer service calls, kind of self-explanatory. You just kind of pull up your database then for the rest of the calls and just say, hey, here's the people I need to call this week. Is there a certain system where you write people down in advance, or do you have your CRM remind you? How do you make sure that you are focused on those people and you're not letting somebody slip through the cracks where 6 or 7 months go by and you're like, oh yeah, I should give, Bob a call?
Mm-hmm. The Compass CRM is really, really good. It used to be contactually, and then Compass bought it, so that's kind of like the bones of that CRM. And then honestly, I use like pretty bare bones, like an iPhone note. I have a note called hot and warm list, and that's where I've got it's super detailed, all these different categories. So I'm looking at that every day. And then on Sundays, when I do my weekly meeting agenda, I'm also I have another note called, ninja prospecting or whatever. I forget what I named it. But then I have my 50 people that I'm going to reach out to for the week. And I have my 10 notes. And sometimes I'm like, I can't think of everybody. So I end up with like 40 people and 7 notes, but I know like, all right, I will organically find another so many people to fill out, but it gets me started where when I jump in the car, I don't go, oh, who should I call right now? I just pull up my list and I just call the next person on the list. Don't think, just call. And that's allowed me to crush those 50 additional calls a week, no problem, because
a lot of it's just taking that first step. I think a lot of people think like, well, if I can't get all these people down, like I failed at like the preparation of getting myself ready for this. And it's like, I love how you just kind of like, it's gotten me ready. I've gotten, at least this many people written down. I've got at least this many notes written down, and knowing the rest of them are going to come along the way. They're going to come along the path just because our business puts us around a lot of people, And when you have those systems, it helps. Like sometimes I don't get to my weekly, meeting agenda. Sorry, Marcus. But it's like, because I have all these systems, one helps I don't completely fall apart because I've got all these things running. So, if something falls off, I don't completely fall apart for the week. Because I can pull up my hot and warm list and then just start going down that and just picking off low-hanging fruit. Or I can go off of the people I called the previous week and then just use that as the list and just recall and then go and say, okay, can I call this person again? Yes or no? And there's a lot of repeat you can do as you're building out these things. There's a lot of things that just keep you on the path, even if you're not getting an A+ for the week, which is not realistic for most people to be that level of consistent. But you really don't have to be, as long as you're never going to 0. Well, and I want to, bring back online here too, is that, we were talking about where you started back in 2021 of having this incredible business. Obviously, you got your ass handed to you for a couple of years and had to kind of re-figure out where you're at, keep your mind in a good spot. currently right now, 2025, you're saying like, there's a lot of people in the San Diego area that are off. They're not having their best business. They're not on track. And we're seeing it all across the United States. I'm watching people that are doing really well. And there's a lot of people that are doing really well that look around the office and they're like, oh my gosh, like there's a lot of people who are really not figuring out this marketplace right now. You're sitting just shy of 30 million, I think is what you said for this current year as of right now. We're sitting mid-August right now. You're in a great spot for 2025, looking at what you've accomplished. And I think a lot of this leads back into your mindset, your systems, your team. Like success leaves clues. And when you start looking at all the stuff and you go like, well, yeah, it makes sense that you're having a great year. It makes sense that you're back online. It makes sense that everything is working. John, awesome. Awesome what you've created and what you built and how you're approaching all this is amazing.
Thank you. It's exciting, and it's more fun also. Just the way that I've retooled the business, it's allowed me to like this business and thrive in this business in a way that I think a lot of agents are still trying to figure out. I mean, this business gets lonely. It's easy to get jaded, and you need to build the right mousetrap. Otherwise, you burn out.
Yeah.
So.
I want to add in one last thing real fast. We're going back to your real estate reviews you're doing and having it being the goal of referring out as many people as you can to help these people have a better life. I know there's people listening that are going, oh, this is great. Okay, so John's got this huge list of vendors and people that he trusts and people in his life. And I don't have that. And I want to encourage all of you to open up your database and ask yourself, have I taken the time to learn what all the people that I have in my database do for a living? Because all of you have great people, great relationships, great connections, but most of us haven't even taken the time to learn what they do. And there's some steps here that you can take right now to start building out that list for yourself. Everybody's got great people though around them.
And it comes back to you. I mean, I get tons of referrals from financial advisors, from loan officers. Do not sleep on your loan officers, people. A lot of us take them for granted. And so if you're nice to them, they're like, you're the only agent I know that's nice to me. And buys me a beer once in a while. Would you like all of my business? And then, so I get a lot from loan officers. Obviously, estate planning attorneys, family law, senior movers. I get a lot from senior movers that are moving people into assisted living. And so as you're building those relationships and sending out those referrals and I mean, a big portion of my coffee list is those folks. That has completely elevated my business. And by the way, guys, you don't pay referral fees to those people. So, I mean, I'm not a big person that's flying all over the country building relationships in Miami and New York. I mean, I'll take a referral, but I pay 25% to any agent that sends me business, and I'm grateful to do so. But financial advisor sends you business, you're buying them a beer. You're giving them a gift certificate for them to take their wife out to a nice dinner. But that's it. Legally you can't do more than that. And so that's a good niche into keeping more of your money.
Yeah. Great reminder.
Great reminder. That's a very good point. Well, John, gosh, man, thank you so much. I mean, there's probably even more meat we can uncover with this. I really appreciate you sharing kind of your journey here and also the structure. I think that's super important and often overlooked, but your mindset and the structure, it all combines into building this really powerful business. And I think you are getting it right this time. You're not riding the wave this go around for sure. And so if you did have kind of one piece of advice that you were going to give to somebody who's in a similar space, maybe they had a great 2021 and the last few years have been struggling. If there was just one nugget you can give them, what would it be?
I think, honestly, if you don't have a coach, get a coach. I wish I had done it sooner. It's really, there's something that happens when you're paying a professional to look at your business. So I would start there, and get better at being coachable. I think not everybody that's not necessarily a skill set, but if you can figure out that piece and be able to have mentors and coaches around you that you have the personality, the mindset where you will take what they're giving you and say thank you and actually implement it, then that really takes you to the next level, where now you're not an on accident realtor anymore, where it's like, okay, I had a great year. It's like it's that whole adage of like, you've been in the business 20 years, or have you been in the business 1 year 20 times? And I think that's where coaching can really remove that aspect of the business.
John, you mentioned being coachable, and I know there's people out there going like, well, how do you know if you're coachable or not? Count how many times you say "yeah, but" when somebody gives you advice.
Yeah.
It is, and you can develop it. You can become coachable. Well, and John, if people want to reach out to you, follow you, learn more about what you're doing, see your journey, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
So John Griswold Group into Google is going to pull up everything in my life. I'm active on Facebook and Instagram. I've got a personal and a business Instagram, but Griswold_group would get you to our business Instagram. My everything is public: email, cell phone. Give me a call anytime. Happy to talk to anybody if they're wanting to, or if anybody has any ideas for me as they're listening to this, of like, hey, you're missing this little. I'd love to collaborate with anybody out there that's kind of working to build the same kind of a business. So
I love it. Well,
John, yeah,
it's been great.
It's been great.
Sharing.
I'm gonna go first. It's been great. Great you coming into our world, man. I have since we have started Life at 10 Tenths, it's been really fun building our relationship together, and I appreciate you so much, man. It's been really fun getting to know you, your business, and just your personality. So thank you. Matt, I'll turn it over to you. Sorry, sir.
Not at all, John. Really appreciate you coming on, kind of living the example of a 10/10ths life, which is really cool to see. And so for any of you who are listening out here, I hope you got some incredible value out of this. Share it with other people who you think need to hear this story and can grow from it, because that's one of the best things you can do with podcasts, because I've heard time and time again, people listen to this podcast, that podcast, not just ours. I'm talking about podcasts in general can really inspire somebody to make a change or to follow a path, just hearing something from somebody else's perspective. So please share this out to somebody else, because you are going to give them a great gift. And if you want to learn more about what we're doing, if you do want to take that step into the coaching world with us, just go to lifeat10tenths.com. We have several options available for you, including our group coaching option, which is so fantastic. We love our people in there. And if you do want to step up to the one-on-one, we have that option available as well. Or you can just hang out for some bonus content in our inside track, which is a beautiful place to be as well. So we appreciate all of you guys for being in our world, for listening to the podcast. And we will definitely catch you on the next one. John, thanks again so much for being with us, my friend.
Thank you. Really checked off a cool little bucket list item for me. So it's really a pleasure to talk to you both.
I love it, man. John, thank you. Matt, thank you, sir.
Take care, everybody.